In the 2024 Hybrid Security Trends Report by Netwrix, ransomware was identified as the third most common security incident affecting organizations utilizing both on-premises and cloud IT architecture. This finding once again underscores the necessity of robust solutions to safeguard systems and endpoints from such a prevalent threat. Netwrix offers a comprehensive data loss prevention (DLP) solution designed to protect against ransomware along with other security threats, such as insider threats, accidental loss, and data breaches. This DLP solution provides real-time multi-OS protection by actively monitoring and securing sensitive data across all endpoints, preventing unauthorized sharing and malicious exfiltration. Additionally, the endpoint protection solution, Netwrix Policy Pack, enhances the Netwrix DLP offering with a centralized platform for detailed policy management. It simplifies the deployment of policies across all organizations' endpoints to enforce consistency in their applications, even for globally distributed teams. Visit this page to discover how Netwrix DLP solution helps organizations worldwide protect their endpoints from a wide range of threats. Data loss prevention software, industry-leading data loss prevention.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another ISACA Podcast. My name is Chris McGowan. I'm the Principal Information Security Professional Practice here at ISACA. Joining me today, my guest is Jeremy Moskowitz. He works for a company called Netwrix. Morning, Jeremy. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's a sunny day here in beautiful Colorado. And we're talking about one of my favorite things ever, which is desktops and ransomware. So, hey, it's a win-win for me.
Absolutely. Hey, before we get started on the content, if you don't mind sharing with our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got into your current position.
Yeah, so I have a long and sordid tale. I mean, I have a computer science background, but I don't program. But then I also love speaking in front of people. So for years and years and years, I was a Microsoft MVP in group policy. I wrote this big fat book on group policy. It's like 900 pages. It got a little popular. I ran around the world teaching that. And then while people were asking me about, hey, why doesn't group policy do this interesting thing? I'd be like, oh, cool, let me write that down. Hey, group policy is amazing. Why doesn't it do this interesting thing? I'd write that down. And by the time I turned around, I had enough cool ideas to then create a software company called Policy Pack. And I ran Policy Pack from about 2009 to 2021. And then we were acquired by Netwrix in 2021. So, and now it's on desktops, millions and millions of desktops, and happy customers everywhere. So desktops are my life. Teaching people what's in the box is my life. And then I actually have, more recently, I'm an MVP in Microsoft Intune. So the idea is that, while group policy is still super popular and on zillions and zillions of servers and desktops, Intune is obviously where Microsoft is headed. So I'm also a Microsoft MVP, which is a little bit like Microsoft knighthood. You can't find them, they got to find you. And so, I've been a group policy MVP for 18 years, then an Intune MVP for 3 years. And there you go. So ran the software company, got acquired, and here we are. That's the long and sordid tale.
Very busy man. How about that? Quick question about, when in the very beginning, did you just go to college, decide, I might want to dabble in a little bit of this computer stuff, or was it just something that came natural to you?
Yeah. So my parents like to say that I pushed every button that could be pushed in elevators, adding machines, calculators. I would just, if I saw something with a button, I would push it. So that was my foray into it. I did go to, there was no kind of like track for what I was interested in when I went to college, really. So the only fit was computer science. And wow, that was tough for me. I was at the bottom of my class in terms of being able to program. But I was really good with a lot of other things. And I always had a job. I always had a job in computers in college. So I worked for museums and I worked for the actual college itself. And I was always doing things around computers. I was always thinking about desktops and fixing and PCs and Amigas back then. I was just doing like everything around desktops. And so, it's weird when you look at trying to put a square peg in the round hole. I was a perfect example of that, where I should not have been programming. I spent most of my time in the debugger. So because I was such a bad programmer, I decided to create a software company. Exactly. So that's my story. So yeah, I did go to college for it, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. But it has obviously been useful for me because I can talk to developers, I can read APIs, I can read code. I'm just like, these guys who are coders, they're amazing. They're like Picasso's and Renoir. Like these guys are incredible. I was never going to get to that level.
Yeah, we cannot agree more on that, because I have a lot of experience being in the military for 20 something years and doing the same job for so long. But I'm the same. I had an opportunity to go to programming school. I was like, okay, let me give this a dabble. 5 minutes into it, I was like, oh, this is not for me.
Well, it takes, yeah, it takes a lot to do that. I huge respect to programmers and even people who are great at PowerShell. Like I'm a PowerShell copy paster modifier. I love ChatGPT because now I can take some code and have it extended, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I can read that code and think, okay, I think it's going to work the way I need to. So like even PowerShell as a language, it's not a programming language for the scripting environment. But even that, I give huge props to people who are really good at that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got through it. Like I said, I did get through it. I did program. I did do programming projects. I won some programming contests back as a kid. I mean, I can do it. It's just like not. It's just not where I land. So where I land, like the thing that I feel like, we have cocktail parties. People say, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" "Oh, I run a software company." "Oh, cool. What does your software do?" I tend to think about tens of thousands of machines. Like I'm really good about thinking about big picture, and like you're a hospital with 50,000 computers and you've got doctors and nurses and HR and all these kinds of departments. You want to make sure all their settings are the way that they should be so that users can't be naughty and work around it. I'm your guy. And I can do it in the box with what group policy does, or in the box with what Intune does, or we can extend it through software if it's my software or other software. And I think in terms of like, how do we manage the heck out of 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, 500,000 desktops? So that was, in fact, really one of my first jobs right out of college was, you guessed it, managing the desktops. And so it was great. I found my place really fast. I became one of the first MCSEs in the world back in 1994. And then became an MCT, and finally, eventually was awarded MVP, which again, you can't test into, you can't buy into. It's sort of, like I said, it's sort of like Microsoft knighthood. And that's great. I found my happy place talking about desktops all day long.
Congratulations. A lot of people work in this field a long time and never really find their happy place, but I'm right there with you. Trust me. I love working for ISACA. Okay. So we should probably just jump into a little bit of the content. Excuse me. So today we're going to talk a little bit about securing desktops and ransomware, obviously. I'm really interested in this conversation because a lot of people would think, oh, it should be a pretty simple conversation. But I think back to, when it came to, well, ransomware has been around a long time, but people really didn't talk a lot about, in my beginning of my career, like desktop security. It was more like, make sure your routers are secure, all these things, so nobody can get into your network. There wasn't a whole lot of talk about, all right, somebody got into the network, now what?
Right.
And then, I remember, just make sure your virus definitions are up to date. That's really all you got to worry about.
Wow, those are the days. Can we go back to that? That was cool. That was easy. I'm ready. Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. It's like, firewall security, just making sure the bad guys don't get in. But you're right. It's a different world now. We have to think about the person on the inside doing something naughty on purpose or doing something naughty by accident. All the vectors of how they can get infected, which could be something as simple as downloading blowmeup.com off the internet. I'm making that up. That doesn't really exist. So they off the internet, the vector of like finding a USB stick in the parking lot, which by the way, I want to talk about that in excruciating detail. Hold on. We'll come back to that. It could be something that's actually on your network already. Like it could be in a share. Like that one's a really hard one to solve for. Okay. That's like some IT admin makes an error and puts the wrong thing in a share. Like that opens up that's a really hard problem to solve because like an admin has done that. But you're right. Keeping the bad guys out from the outside in, that's good. Desktop, I think what you're basically saying, and I pretty much agree, is keeping the honest guys honest so that they don't do naughty things by accident or on purpose. And there's a wide variety of, like I said, of ways that badness can happen.
Hmm. So, I mean, what do you think's really has ransomware, the way the bad guys do what they do, changed much in regards to more of your local desktop environment?
Well, look, I mean, there's always the lore of this idea of drive-by ransomware. Okay, ooh, that sounds scary. Drive-by ransomware. Well, what is that? I mean, that means like there's a lot that has to go wrong for drive-by ransomware to actually take in. So I kind of want to I'm going to lowercase d discount that one as one of those boogeymen that we should probably not be too concerned about. So there's realistic stuff, which we'll get to. And then let's kind of talk about this drive-by ransomware thing first, just to get it out of the way. Drive-by ransomware means that you go to a website, there's a problem in your operating system that has never been patched. And because you magically landed on some website that already has been loaded for bear, ready for you to stumble across it, plus your operating system that is not up to date, that's going to equal you getting barbecued. Okay, it has happened. It has happened. It has happened. That is the most unlikely scenario for you to get barbecued, though. Okay, there are like 50 other more likely ways for you to get barbecued. The most likely way to get barbecued, it's your mom scenario. What do I mean by that? We know your mom likes to go to the internet and download her, game app, double click, run it, and she's like, oh, I'm playing poker, or I'm playing mahjong, or I'm playing whatever I want to do. Okay, that's the most common way you get ransomware. Okay, and the bad part about that is that I would feel like, okay, if it only happened because you were running with local admin rights, well, then that would be a crying shame. But the problem is that ransomware doesn't only affect people running with local admin rights. It affects everybody. Why is that? Because what I'd like to say is that when you know all these nouns and verbs, just let me say them all out loud. I'm sorry, audience, that I have to even go here. Windows is an operating system. It loves to run stuff. It is a big dumb elephant. It will do exactly what you tell it to do. You double click on a thing and it will run it. Okay, are there sort of some underlying protections of reputation and so on? Like, nobody on the planet has ever downloaded this before. Like, Windows does try a little bit in like a sidecar way to prevent these things, but ultimately Windows will just do what you tell it to do. It'll let you download crap off the internet, double click it, next, and Bob's your uncle, and now you're playing the game, but underneath the hood, you've got something really bad going on in your network. And it's either on one machine, or if its job is to try to spread its wings and to get to not if it's only your mom who's in her basement, that's cool. That's as far as it's going to get. But if you're on a network and you're talking to 50,000 other people at your hospital, that's the problem, because now it's trying to run code, download other things off the internet, unpack those things, and try to take new direction about what it should do to try to spread forth. So the number one thing we can do is try to stop anybody who's a regular user or an admin from running stuff that is not blessed from IT.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I'm pretty sure you agree with me. Like in your scenario with mom, which I'm loving that we're doing that. I mean, people are going to trust, well, I'm getting this from mom, so it must be good to go, right? I should be
No,
able
the
to
other way around. I'm saying that mom goes out to unusual, downloadallgames.com, and she downloads her mahjong or poker app. That's where she gets barbecued. That's the problem right there. But maybe mom downloads the mahjong app and hands it to Granny Smith at the table over lunch, and Granny Smith takes a USB stick. Oh, this is a great game, and plugs it in. Those are not the vectors we care about from ISACA perspective or Netwrix perspective. Like those are, I feel bad for grandma. I really do. I feel really bad for grandma. But I feel way worse for a hospital with 50,000 computers, or manufacturing or banking. Like they're both bad, but they're bad in different levels.
Yeah, I know someone real close that works for a hospital environment that does vulnerability management, and the headaches that they run into on a normal day basis, it's more like, sure, we have a fix for this vulnerability, but the problem is getting whoever owns the system to, accept the fact that they need to update something. Because I mean, accepting risk is something we do on a daily basis, but from the scope of it being, a hospital or hospital environment with HIPAA and all this sensitive information, it's like, I get it. Patching this is going to make it a little more inconvenient to do your easier things, but what's more important?
Well, hospitals have a particularly unique challenge. I don't know if you ever spent any quality time at a hospital with a loved one or whatever, but if you're just sitting there for hours and hours and you pay a little bit of attention, you'll see specialty equipment on carts go by. Okay. And that specialty equipment on carts go by, you can think of in a little bit way like a dishwasher or a toaster. Okay. The manufacturer shipped that thing. It happens to run freaking Windows from like 8 years ago. And it's a heart monitor, brain scan, lung thing. I don't know what it is. Okay. But it's like a toaster. Its operating system is built in from that perspective. And that thing should never be upgraded again as far as the manufacturer is concerned, because otherwise you're voiding the warranty. Well, I mean, look, those things have ports in the back. If I was a naughty 12-year-old that needed to spend 3 years in a hospital, I'm pretty freaking sure I would start taking USB sticks to that thing and seeing if I could hack it.
It's funny you bring up USB sticks, because I was just recently on travel, and some of the supposedly security-minded folks were joking around about, remember when we used to go to classes or get different things, and I'm not just saying China, but made from China, made from wherever.
Yeah.
And they always came with that software.
That little CD-ROM, the USB stick or the little CD-ROM you'd put in. Yeah.
So, most of the time you hope security-minded people were like, I'm not, no, I'll go download from the correct site, whether it be Windows or whatever, or Microsoft, the appropriate patch or whatever it is. But I remember people just popping that in and just clicking away, and I'm like,
it's true. You're rolling the dice. I mean, look, between you and me and all of our friends here, I mean, you're right. The chances of it containing something evil are probably small, but it's not infinitesimal. It's not it's not none. And that is the vectors we need to try to protect against, right? It's preventing the end user from downloading or executing code in any from any vector. If that's a USB stick, if that's downloading it from blowmeup.com, if that's on a share that you have, but it's not sanctioned, all these vectors need to be shored up in a meaningful way. And again, there is software. I can't imagine where you'd find this software that would do this. That would magically enable you to ensure that only the things that come down directly from the admin are stuff that has gone through, some amount of blessing. And if it's blessed by you, it's good. And if it's not blessed by you, it's automatically cursed. Gosh, if there was only some magic software, that would be incredible. But we don't have to talk about that. That's okay.
So you caught me up there. That's pretty funny. So, I mean, you talked about software, but along with software like what you're talking about, obviously, this conversation happens all the time. It's like the education of the end user. Now, obviously, that's important, but from your perspective on, what you do and what we're actually talking about today, do you think that training for and the end user needs to be a little bit more specific?
I'll tell you, training can mean a lot of different things. I spent some quality time at Microsoft because of their MVP program, and I've gotten to work with product teams and so on. Notwithstanding, in the elevators, there's posters like, don't double tap in your badge. What does that mean? That means you tap your badge in, and then you go through the door, and then you close the door behind you. And what they are trying to discourage there is, don't tap your badge and let 3 people in, because then they don't know who's in the building. That's not a ransomware problem. That's a regular security problem, or it could be a ransomware problem. But I'm using it as an example of something that I remember as a incredibly low-tech way to get an incredibly high-tech problem solved. Okay, so sure, is there phishing training? Is there video training? There's a lot of stuff. Do everything. Just do it all. So something is going to stick. So I have no problem endorsing all the things that are required at the organization scale you are. What I'm trying to say is there are budgets of all sizes, including nearly zero, which will probably get the job accomplished. So you can go fancy with, spear phishing tests and blah, 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 or you can go medium fancy with videos and quizzes, or you can go incredibly low tech by just having like brown bag lunch and learns or experts talk on podcasts, or you can, or like I said, the thing in the elevator, just like, don't put in a USB stick you find in a parking lot. If you saw that for a week, maybe you'd remember that.
So it would definitely stick with you.
Yeah. I mean, $0 or really low dollar, low tech ways to get the initial part of the problem, at least, stayed off.
Yeah. Some of my history of what I used to do was that person planting those USB sticks and things like that, just to, in more of a blue team kind of thing, or trying to probe or test the physical side of security, because sadly, this education and the repetitive education, I think, is extremely important, because usually the easiest way I found to do things is finding that one person who's just like, whatever, don't care.
Well, it's an older test. I use it in my slide deck. I'm sure I'm going to be barbecuing it a little bit, but if you Google for something like Google plus University of Wisconsin, it's something like that, dropped 100 USB sticks in parking lots, and within 30 minutes, half of which attached to the network. It's something like that. If I'm I'm really close. Okay. The point is like, okay, now let's go to the mindset of why. I got a couple reasons why somebody might do this. Let's go with the most judicious. Oh, somebody dropped their USB stick. Maybe I can get it back to them. Okay. Maybe the next level down is, oh gosh, I want to see if it's blank and I can use it. Maybe the next level down is, I want to see what files are on there. Maybe I can pass my test. I don't know. So, if I've got my story straight, I think that Iranians' nuclear, the Stuxnet virus actually got on there the exact same way, which is USB sticks in the parking lot, and eventually somebody put it in.
Yep.
So something like that. So, long story short, boy, howdy, that thing works. If I was going to attack a network, I'd really try to go after that vector.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people that do things rely on either one, ignorance, not calling somebody stupid. It's more like they just either was that person that doesn't pay attention to that training, or it's just like shiny apple.
Oh, wait, would your mom do it?
Oh, yeah.
No, would mine. Right. And so that's it. That's the bar. Just boom. And again, that I've used the mom analogy before. I'm using it again. If your mom would do it, your general end user would do it.
Yeah, I have a 10-year-old. Dangerous.
And here's the thing. I'm not in the business of blaming the end user for having normalized behavior. Like, a dog's a dog, a user's a user. I mean, like, they do what they do. Okay. It's like, we can't blame, we can educate the dog. We can educate the user. Which I mean is like, we come with our natural set of tendencies and we can get better, but I don't expect a user to be a security professional. Like, that's not a fair marker for them. And so we need to be the protectors of them in what we do. And if that is using the stuff that's in the box with group policy or Intune, or using a third-party thing, or, adding software to make it so that, end users can't be naughty, or whatever it is. I mean, we have to be pragmatic and not, say like, oh, the big dumb user did this. No. Users be users. It's like, it's not fair to blame them. So we have to be in their corner. And also, the other piece of this is that we also can't beat them up for coming to us if they do make a mistake. That's not how it works. You can't, because then they'll never come to you. You don't, it's just like, everybody has made some probably kind of mistake, and you have to fess up, and like, it shouldn't be a fireable offense. If it's malicious on purpose, if you're cavorting with the enemy, that's a completely different story. But if you did a thing and you realize you did it bad, and okay, boom, talk with your security team, get it fixed, and move on with your life. I think it's very rare that people actively get fired or downgraded because they have generated some kind of security incident You're more likely to get terminated for brushing it under the rug. So
yeah, or trying to hide the fact. So that you start along a perfect line into the next question I was curious about. So say this happens, whoever clicks on whatever does something like whoops. So what should these organizations do if, as soon as they find out that there is a ransomware issue?
Well, hopefully by then the organization has a playbook. Okay, every organization's playbook is going to be a little bit different, and there's this idea of tabletop exercises, which is a fancy way of saying pretend this has happened. Okay, and then you should know. Let me ask you a different kinds of question. If you had a fire in your house in one part of the house, would you know how to get out of the other side of the house you're on? Probably, because you know your house really well. Okay, so the best kind of organizations around ransomware are those that know, well, if this part of the world explodes, we know how to do this. We know how to spin this up. We know who to call. We know what everybody's phone numbers are. We know how to get in touch with people if the Zoom or Teams is down, or whatever your problem is. Have back channels. There's a great book. I read it. I can't quite remember the author, but it's something like How to Deal with Ransomware Response. And it was a great short read. Excellent. I just, the name's escaping me off the top of my head. But awesome book around how to plan and prepare for that kind of thing. And it was good. It gave me some good, I'll tell you, it's weird. Weird things stick with you sometimes. You want to know what stuck with me in that book, which is a weird thing. It's like, if you're in charge of ransomware incidents response, be sure to have a plan for food. I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Like you didn't know that was coming, right? Because like when everybody's losing their mind and trying to get everything back up and running, who's thinking about food? You should be, or whoever that thing. Okay. So I wish I could remember that book. But anyway, the point is like you got to be thinking about all angles. Again, ransomware could be small, medium, and large. Okay. Ransomware could be one machine is locked. Ransomware can mean an entire department is locked. Or ransomware can mean your entire life, your whole company is barbecued and locked. And that's where it gets bad. Okay. So obviously, those are three completely different scenarios. I'm more about preventing ransomware than I am about negotiating and dealing with it and unwinding it. But I do have some ideas in there if that's the place we want to go.
Yeah. I mean, I think business-wide, that's the way people look at things, in my opinion, is like, oh, what are we going to do? We're going to pay the ransom? Do we have insurance? What are we going to do? Instead of, like you said before, let's, if we start on that lower level before the, oh crap hits the fan, you concentrate on that, whether it be layered security, whatever it is, depending on, like you said, the size of the organization, what they do. I mean, is it smarter to think like, okay, so they're locked us out of this information. What about backups? Is it that playbook, right? It's just another piece or a tool in the toolbox. This is the way I like to say it.
Well, again, let's break all that stuff down. So first of all, if you can avoid paying the ransomware and just tell the bad guys to suck an egg, that's way better. Okay. Right. So then if you've got a way to restore the server, roll it on back, get to that data and get back and running, that's good. Doesn't mean you won't be hit again. In fact, I think there's some statistic that says if you were hit by ransomware, you're like, I'm making it up, but it's something like this: 70 to 80% more likely to get hit again. Okay, which sucks. It's like, oh, I got into a screaming car wreck, and now I'm driving along. I'm in a screaming car wreck again. Like, it's terrible. But
well, the bad guys see that, right? They're like, well,
they see it, and maybe you haven't closed the door behind you that got them there in the first place, or they put some other back door in. So, there's a lot of problems there. But like I said, if you can restore yourself, that's great. If you have legal, get them involved immediately. I think that there's no downside to that. There are ransomware negotiators. The problem, though, is that even if you get that decryption key, it is not guaranteed to work. I cannot tell you how many stories of people who have paid the ransomware and gotten back somewhere between 0 and 100%. So that's a wide range between 0 and 100%. So maybe you get back 3 servers and you paid, I'm making it up, $2 million to do that. Was that worth it? Probably not. And then there's like a whole new trend. There's legal, things coming down the pike, at least in some jurisdictions where you can't pay the ransomware. Well, why is that? It's counterintuitive. Well, why shouldn't I be able to do? Okay, the idea is, at least for government and for federal and so on. Then again, I don't know if these have been enacted into laws yet, but the idea is that, well, if there's no way for that government entity to pay that ransomware, then maybe they'll be passed over for somebody else to be attacked, because they know the bad guys will then know there's no point anyway. I don't know if the bad guys are that sophisticated enough to know the jurisdiction for each, target possibility, but it's certainly, I get the gist behind it.
Yeah, I mean, lately, when I say lately, in the last few years, a lot of these regulations and rules are coming out. I mean, they might start, Europe's kind of doing their thing pretty quick, but a lot of other countries are adopting some of these same things. And yeah, it's easier to be a bad guy when you know what your target is responsible for. So you can tailor how you want to run your, whether it be ransomware or whatnot, and kind of like vector that attack towards, or tailor it towards whoever it is you're targeting in the first place.
Well, that's the idea anyway. So, we'll see if that legislation, becomes more widespread. And I don't think you can compel, ABC, manufacturing company to not pay a ransomware, but I think you can compel like a state and local or federal agency.
Yeah. It becomes a little muckier when you try and go down away from what you have control over. So, I mean, we talked about a bunch. It's been a great conversation, but thinking, mine is talking about a few more things, but like summing up what you believe, like what is some of the really most important things organizations can do to not just prepare for that possibly eventual ransomware attack, but just prepare for it, proactive, right? Don't wait.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think we have hit some of them during this, but again, it starts off with tabletop exercises, which I'm not an expert in. I don't claim to be an expert in that. It's basically getting prepared for a fire, having the fire extinguishers around, knowing a minimum backup looks like. What does an offsite or stand-up network look like? Making sure you have phone numbers for everybody and communicate, outside of your network. Maybe you have Gmail accounts or whatever it is as an alternate backup method. That kind of thing. So like communication, we talked about that idea of, what are you doing? Are we all coming into the office? Are we flying in? Are we what's our plan? Again, these are not, I don't claim to be an expert in this particular area. I'm just talking about things that I've read and remember because I'm fascinated with this particular topic. For me, prevention is key, right? Benjamin Franklin said it best, right? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Couldn't agree more, right? If you can have that low cost, training, if you can have medium cost software that helps you ensure that the bad guys, that even the good guys rather, aren't doing naughty things, stuff, that kind of stuff that we talked about earlier, you're going to be in a way better position if you can, block it before it even starts. It's just so much. It's going to be so much better than trying to recover from it in the first place. But yeah, it is not an eventuality that you will be completely barbecued. It's not like, there are those customers who had ransomware, those that will. I don't know about that. I feel like I'm a little more optimistic. I feel like there's enough, there's enough technical ability for us to try to move it along. I mean, remember that stupid product from the 90s, the club on the car? Remember that thing?
Yes.
Okay. For those of you who are too young to remember what this thing is, go ahead and look it up. What it does is that it's like a gizmo that like makes the steering wheel unable to turn. Okay. So like when you turn the steering wheel, this thing like makes it so that you can't like move the steering wheel because it hits the windshield. Well, what does that do in practice? Okay. If you really wanted to spend an infinite amount of time, money, and energy, could you get that club off? Yeah. But if you're walking through the neighborhood and you're looking for cars to steal, are you going to go with one with a club or one without a club?
with them.
Okay, there you go.
Something less, it's sexy, right? Is that what I say?
Yeah, I mean, look, unless that car is like the best Lamborghini ever and you want it and it's a trophy car, you would spend the quality time, money, and effort to like freeze the lock and smash it with a hammer and cut it with a bandsaw. Like you could do it if it was a high value target. So I'm not saying never. I'm saying your organization needs to decide what your value range is and put the right amount of effort in to try to keep the bad guys from looking at you and saying, oh, well, I tried some things. Screw it. I'll move on to the next target. I mean, that's really, prevention is really where it's at.
Yeah. It's a lot of information. I'm pretty sure at the bottom of this podcast, there's going to be some links where people can go to learn a bit about your company, what you do, and some resources.
That's great.
But just off the top of your head, do you know, are willing to share some with the audience? Or?
Yeah, sure. So my personal website is mdmandgpanswers.com. And if you can't remember that, just go to GP for group policy, gpanswers.com. So in there is something, I've been doing this for years and years and years, which is online and in-person training for how to kick your own company's butt to use the stuff in the box to help you become more secure and organized with Windows settings. So Windows does have a lot, and you can and should use that, but Windows can't do everything, my friend. That's the problem. If Windows could do everything, there wouldn't be a need for third-party tools. And that's where Netwrix Policy Pack comes in. So again, my company was Policy Pack, POLICYPAK.com. That website's still there. But now, since 2021, we're owned by Netwrix, and I still run the show there. And the idea is that what Netwrix Policy Pack does is all the things where Microsoft leaves off. And you've heard me allude to it a couple times of like, how do you make sure that bad guys can't plug in USB sticks and get on the network? Well, that is a big thing. How do you make sure that when somebody does download something from blowmeup.com and it's not sanctioned, that they double click it and Windows doesn't run it? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about with Policy Pack. The other big thing that is really important to know is things get exponentially worse when users are running with local admin rights, okay? Because then it's just like game over for the whole operating system. So if you can remove local admin rights and then ensure that they can do the admin-like things that are sanctioned by you as they need to, and also put the smackdown on unknownware or ransomware, boy howdy, you'd have a full complement of ready-to-rock solutions to make this problem go away. Again, Policy Pack to the rescue. We do a lot of other cool things there too, but those are the main things that would be relevant for what we're talking about today.
Yeah, a lot of that policy stuff, people don't realize what, if not run correctly, what privileges or lack thereof people have until it becomes an issue. Okay, before we leave, it's been a great conversation. I'm sure we could go on and on and on about it. But is there any last things you'd like to share with our audience before we close down this one?
No, I really feel like you've asked all the right questions. I feel like we've done the education for people. I wouldn't say walk the earth in a scared posture. I think just like a car, like you're driving a car, you're not driving in the car all scared all the time. You are wearing a seatbelt though. Okay. And so I think like both things are true. And as such, do what you can do. Don't overdo. Okay. I've seen tons of computers with like 17 agents on them trying to like swat away all it's not the way necessarily to do it. I think there's a middle ground for everything. So don't overdo, drive the car, don't be tense, but wear that seatbelt and do the prevention as you can.
Well, Jeremy, I want to thank you for volunteering your time and, giving out some really good information. Like I said before, there should be a link at the bottom to, if you want to learn a bit more. And I'm interested in the books you've done. I've read a lot about your bio and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to diving in a little bit more and connecting with you after this. So maybe one day we can meet back up and do this again. So I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I had a good time. Thanks for being a great host. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Until next time, keep learning.